As a woman, I'm sure you're wondering if there's a seat for you in the tech industry. Today, we're diving into a topic, and it's about the challenges women face when transitioning into tech.
There are incentives for companies to hire women.
There's an additional problem. It's been demonstrated that as many women go to college to learn STEM careers, but this doesn't translate into them getting tech jobs.
I remember you came back and told me you were the only female in the whole IT department?
Yes, and 10 years later, that's still the case. I've never worked with another female in my direct team.
A lot of companies, they must meet their quota of women hiring, so use that to your advantage. And the spaces I've worked in tech, I barely can think of 2 or 3 women.
Yeah, that's actually the case. The official statistic is 25% of tech jobs are occupied by women. I haven't been lucky enough to share space with a woman in my immediate team, though I've seen women in tech roles.
Even that 25%, I have to challenge. I want to challenge because
we have to challenge it.
Because not only I don't think it's accurate, but I also think most of the tech job women hold are low-level tech job. So yeah, if we're talking about in general tech, women hold 25%. We also have to dig in deeper, I think, into which job they hold in the tech industry.
Yeah, and there's an additional problem. It's been demonstrated that as many women go to college to learn STEM careers, but this doesn't translate into them getting tech jobs. So there's a problem there too.
And also one thing I want to make sure people understand, because the idea is to not only talk about the problem of, the lack of women in the industry, is that especially in the US, there are incentives for people, for companies to hire women. So you have to use that in your advantage, because people are going out their way now to try to reach those quota of hiring women. So there is a silver lining in this whole thing.
Yes, we can take advantage of that, but first we have to get into the industry, and that starts with deciding to change careers or to go into tech. And I think we have to go back to even our infancy. Like, when do we decide that tech is a career for us? And if you think about it, how do we choose what we want to be when we're kids? Usually we think about people that we admire, our aunties, family, friends, and we think about what they do. We see them thriving as nurses, so we decide to become nurses. We see them being teachers, we decide to be teachers. But unfortunately, at least for my generation, I didn't grow up seeing women in the tech space. So for a long part of my life, I didn't think tech was even something that I could pursue.
Yeah, I have a question for you. I know we've talked about it in other podcasts and other videos. I kind of convinced you to when you were ready to transition into another career, you were considering nutrition.
Yes.
And I convinced you, tech might be another avenue to actually pursue. Why did you agree? Why did you take me on that proposition?
Because in my first career, I worked with humans. I worked with people. And I was convinced that it was easier to work with computers. On top of that, I felt like I was good at it. Like, I could easily learn computer software tools.
And I agree. And not only I could see it, there's such a thing called power users, meaning people who are just naturally more comfortable around computers. And I could see that in you. So that's why I was insisting. It's not only because,
Another factor is that I wasn't gonna leave a low-paying career for another low-paying career. So once Jubee showed me the income potential of a nutritionist, I said, okay, let's see this tech thing.
Exactly, because we're not going to change from social work that doesn't pay to nutritionist that barely pays. You know, especially if we have a super user in the house.
Yeah. Though I have to say, not all tech careers are as lucrative. I see a lot of people go for degrees like computer science and stuff like that, and once they come out of college, their income potential is $50,000-$60,000. One of the things that helped me was that Jubee and his community became my community and my mentors, and they showed me some, not shortcuts, but they showed me a path that had better income potential, and where there were many job opportunities in the DC, Maryland area where we live.
A lot of people encounter that. I encountered that because I went to school. I went to college for management information systems. Coming out of college, you are not going to make a lot. It doesn't
guarantee a high-paying job.
What does help you a lot is to go to a specialized training in addition to your degree. That is very important. That's why we do at Yellowtail Tech. But this is the best way to not get in the trap of graduating from college and then just hoping and looking to actually come out with a decent salary. You have to go and add something on top of that.
Of course. And the more technical, the easier it is to convert that into a job. But let's go back to our original subject, which is about transitioning into tech and the challenges that women face. One of the things that I see once we're past that point where you actually decide to go into a tech career is how you're interviewed. So in my case, I was constantly interviewed by men once we got out of the HR interviews. And that was actually a challenge because they would question, I was a new mother when I was interviewing, and they were questioning if I could do rotation schedules because my first job was as a Linux system administrator. So they wondered if I could rotate. They wondered if I could be on call. And in one of the interviews, I got like a really smart mouth, and I asked the interviewer, like, don't people hire nurses that work overnights? Are they not mothers? Like, it's the same thing as if I were a male, and it's the same thing as if I were in another job that requires a rotation schedule.
I actually didn't know you had so much pushback. I understood, not all interviews were easy for you, but I thought it was only on the technical level. I didn't know you had that kind of pushback.
Yes, during the first. For my first job, I did.
Yeah, because I remember you came back and told me you were the only female in the whole IT department.
Yes, and that 10 years later, that's still the case. I've never worked with another female in my direct team.
It's crazy.
So that brings us to another point. Women trying to transition into tech, and even women trying to grow their careers in tech, we have to make a bigger effort to network and find other females in the industry. Sometimes that's going to be inside a different team in your organization, but most of the time that's going to be outside your organization. So meetups, industry events, conferences. One of the opportunities you mentioned for women is there are scholarships for underrepresented people in tech, and they do these for major conferences. I took advantage of this. I applied. I managed to go to Red Hat conferences, to reInvent conferences through scholarships, and that gave me an opportunity to meet women killing it outside of my hometown, outside of my direct industry, and it kind of made up for what I couldn't find at my job.
And also, that's why we at Yellowtail Tech, we are building a community, a non-tech community, to support women, to encourage women to actually get excited, get passionate about the industry. Because, getting into tech is not only, the boot camp. It's about the support. It's about the representation you feel in there. It's about finding your crowd.
Yeah.
So being in a community that fosters that actually celebrates that, I think is important as well.
It is. Another issue that's very tied to that is imposter syndrome. So when we're the only female, when most of the time the females that are part of these environments are career changers, we kind of feel isolated.
Yeah.
So there's also some bias that come through the with the team members. They're gonna question your opinions. There's gonna be pushback on what you bring to the table. So you have to hold space for yourself and advocate for yourself.
And I can imagine also the lack of mentorship inside the work environment, because if there's not many women in the industry to start with, you're not gonna find many women to actually mentor you to get to the next level.
Yeah.
So
though I do have to say, when you find one, even if they're in a different team, they're like, "Hey, sister," like there's that
that bond, that
bond, yeah. Like
created.
I see you too, and that's important.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you can do as a woman transitioning into tech. The first thing is what I was very fortunate to have from my home, right? Like I had mentorship. I had people that were already in the field that could give me guidance, but it didn't stop there. I went outside. I went to every meetup I could think of, even about things that I wasn't even trying to learn. Like I was learning Linux and going to Ruby meetups just because I needed to meet people. And somebody at Yellowtail always says, like, your next job may be a conversation away when you encounter the right people. So
I think it's Rob.
Rob, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Rob, a career coach.
Yeah.
Shout out, Rob.
Yeah, so you have to look for these mentors. You don't have to make it all formal, like asking this person, "Can you be my mentor?" Like, it doesn't work that way. Keep it casual. Just have them in your... Try to friend them. Ask them questions. Go have a coffee if possible. Try to link up with them at a conference and see where that goes. The other thing is you have to build a career path, because the imposter syndrome is going to have you doubt your credentials, what you know. But if you craft that career path that you want to go through, you're going to see, what do I need to learn to get there? Do I actually need to learn something? Because sometimes we just think we don't know enough, but girl, you have it all. Yeah. And in my case, from the get-go, I said, hey, AWS is the next big thing. I don't know anybody that has 5 AWS certs. I even know less women that have AWS certs. So that was clear for me. I need to have those 5 certs. And I did that. And that opens doors for me before I even get there.
And not only opens doors, it literally puts you in a different category.
Yeah.
Because the amount of people with 5 AWS certs and 2 Red Hat certs at the engineering level for anyone is big.
Yeah.
So even more for a female. So
going
deep into your career instead of wide is very important. I agree.
Specializing always helps with the self-doubt. What else can you think of?
Me, I think it's negotiating your salary. Because a lot of women, they usually are even you,
Oh yeah.
Remember?
I am terrible.
I had to actually push her to try to negotiate her salary. And I remember...
Still today, I think I could push harder.
Yeah, but I remember there is this lady, she wrote a book called Lean In. I didn't read the book, but I saw her TED Talk.
Yeah.
And she says, you
She
have
works
to...
for Facebook.
Yeah, you have to lean in, because there is a pot of money to pay everyone, right? So the guys tend to lean in and ask for more. So the more they lean in, they ask for more of that money. There's less for whoever is not asking. So if you are not leaning in as well and insisting to get the best, the most salary you can get, guess what? It's going to another person who's doing that.
And who's probably doing less than you and less qualified than you.
Yeah. So negotiating your salary, being confident
Advocating
enough
for yourself. Yeah.
being confident enough to go in and actually negotiate your salary, I think, is the biggest thing.
Yeah. Also, during that interview process, you have to try to understand if that job and that organization has any career opportunities. Like, is training available to me? Once I get that job, is there a second step above? Is there a third step above? Because if you're going to go somewhere where you already hit the glass ceiling, there's not room for growth there.
And you can always change jobs, because it's a new thing now people talk about, but it's very important for us to mention. Before, it was a problem if you had too many jobs on your resume.
Yeah.
It automatically implied...
That was for our parents' generation, not for us.
It automatically implied that you are not stable. No, this is old. This is old thinking.
It says nothing about your character in 2024.
If you feel stuck, if you feel there is no more room for you to grow in a company, it's time to move on.
Yep.
So keep that in mind as you are getting into the industry, especially for ladies getting into the industry.
Definitely.
Make sure you understand that there is a space for you in the industry. And most importantly, a lot of companies, they must meet their quota of women hiring. So use that to your advantage.
So to close, despite all the challenges that women face to get into tech, I want to give a shout out to a bunch of organizations that are helping women transition, that definitely helped me when I was transitioning into tech. In the case of my career, there's Women in Linux, there's Women Who Code, there's Girls Who Code. Like, there's organizations that can help women of any background, of any age. Like, I wish my daughter was already interested in this, because I would be trying to pursue one of these organizations that could help her figure out her path. So look for these organizations, try to show up to their meetups and events. Sometimes they're even online, so you don't have to worry about commuting to them. And take advantage of these. Meet these rock star ladies that are already in the field, and you'll see how you'll be motivated and even uplifted by the community.